Hey Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, and joining me tonight is Jan. What's going on, Jan?
Not much. I had a birthday this week. I ate at a Japanese steakhouse, and I got the new seasons of The Flash and Supernatural on DVD, and I'm currently watching through The Flash, and then I'm gonna start Supernatural, try to finish those up before the new seasons air. And kind of getting back into the swing of classes. I have a physics test next week, and I am not prepared at all, and will probably be destroyed by it, and I'll probably be a shell of my former self when we do this again next week, presuming I'm still alive.
Okay, well, that took a dark turn very quickly. James, bring us up, will you?
Sorry. I'm actually reading a good goddamn Spider-Man comic. Spectacular Spider-Man. I recommend this for anybody, even though John hates it. Well, actually, this week it's been, again, nothing really to write home about for me. It's just been like normal week. Like, literally, that's all it's been.
Well, this week is about to get a little bit more exciting for at least our viewers, because, oh boy, do we have an episode for you tonight. But before we have dessert, we must eat the entree, and that is Jan's Cartoon Corner. Because
I like how the entree is going to be a way the hell lot shorter than what the dessert is.
This is why you're the chef and I'm not, James. This is why I'm not a chef.
John, what you basically said is, here's one piece of chicken, and for your dessert, here's the whole fucking cake. That's basically what you said.
This is why I didn't go to culinary school. Jan, episodes.
From what Jan told me about his physics text, that's why I'm not a physicist.
Jan, 2 episodes of the cartoon aired this past Saturday morning. Episodes 4 and 5. Episode 4 featured the James.
No! I got a cramp in my arm. I had a cramp in my arm that just came up. I've been getting it all day at work. It's been irritating me because I've been doing so much shit at work.
I know.
I am not doing anything disgusting. It's my hand legitimately hurts.
I know it just looked like it. I'm sorry, James, but I was just like, what?
Yeah, ever since work, because I did a lot of shit today. Working a morning shift. My arm's been my wrist has just been cramping up on me.
Yes, James, I apologize, but Jan. Episode 4 introduced the Black Cat. Episode 5 introduced the Rhino. We had a lot of other side plots, like the Jackal. His identity was revealed as Raymond Warren, because once again in this cartoon, his name is not Miles Warren, it's Raymond Warren, and he's also
they don't want you to be confused.
And he's also Gwen Stacy's uncle, which is creepy as all hell.
Actually, they kind of. I guarantee they did that because they were trying not to be creepy with it.
But it just made it even more creepy. And then, of course, the Black Cat episode also gave us a little hint of the Venom symbiote that will be coming up in a future episode. So, Jan, episodes 4 and 5, what did you think of these 2 episodes?
I think these are easily the 2 best that we've had so far. I think the first 2 episodes were overall I liked them. They were flawed. I don't know, as James pointed out, Peter Parker was kind of obnoxious with his science stuff, and it felt like they were trying too hard. They didn't quite have their take. I don't think some of the action was a little underwhelming. And the last episode, as I said last week, the writing was really bad, but the animation and the way the characters were handled was good. So I was able to, I think, we've had the show has gotten before these 2 episodes, they had they've gotten every aspect right, but they haven't been able to get all the aspects right at the same time. And I think these 2 episodes, they finally started to hit their stride. I think if the show continues to be this level of quality, I'll continue to watch until it ends, unless it turns bad, like the comics did. Circa Omit, which we'll talk about. But talk about something positive and not want to hate myself, because I'm going to be doing that next week when I'm preparing for my physics test. Okay, the first episode.
Jan, kind of helping you with your physics test, because no matter how bad it is, it's not as bad as what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, well, that's debatable, James. Because will this affect my life in the future? We don't know.
Probably yes, it is if you know me, because there's a chance that I will break my internet and you'll never see me again tonight.
Yeah, probably. Well, it's going to be dark times ahead, that's for sure. So I'm going to enjoy my life for about 10 minutes before we turn it over to the hate orgy. So so the first episode, A Day in the Life, I think this is the best episode of the show so far, including episode 5. So my notes, general pros, I think this episode really emphasized Peter trying to figure out how to balance his two lives, and I think they did a really good job with that. Like you see him, he's his homework is starting to get not be turned in on time, and his friendship with Harry is starting to get really strained because he's, instead of actually hanging out with Harry and offering Harry like the emotional support that Harry needs when he's being framed for a crime, he's instead having to run off to stop, crime and stuff like that. So I liked that. I think they really nailed that classic like Steve Ditko, that kind of era of like, trying to balance your two. Stop it, James. You're. This is not. You always do this to me. I hate you. Just kidding. I don't hate you, James. But so I think they had a very like classic like Stan Lee, Steve Ditko sort of recreation of that kind of balancing the two lives. There was a lot of like Spider-Man 2 and even like Spider-Man Homecoming kind of in that episode. So I like that aspect a lot. My cat just jumped on my lap. I'm gonna. Sorry,
God,
Kate. Yeah, get off. I think
cat's my one weaknesses.
Yeah, the cat is one of my weaknesses. Every time things are just not going well for me tonight. It's been like 2 minutes and I'm already fumbling like every three seconds. So
it's okay, Jan. It's okay. It happens to everybody.
Yeah, okay. Spider tracers. You see Peter like use the spider tracer this episode. That was kind of cool. Like he's having a hard time getting it to work properly and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that. I think this is the first time, I don't think she had her bad luck powers in the 90s cartoon. Did she?
No, in that cartoon they just made her into a weird super soldier.
Oh yeah, she's like Captain America in that cartoon or something like that, right? Which is weird. I don't like that, but whatever. Here I think she has her bad luck powers, which
her superpower was sleeping around with a lot of guys.
That's true. That's very true. And here her power is bad luck, like in well, I guess she didn't have that originally in the comics, but she got it from the Kingpin or something like that, I think. She has her bad luck powers here, and they're visualized kind of cool. Like when she causes bad luck to happen, like her eyes turn into cat eyes for a second. Like I thought that was kind of fun. And that led to a lot of really fun action scenes. Like there was a lot of cool, more like hand-to-hand kind of fighting between her and Spider-Man, and then she would cause a lot of accidents that he'd have to stop so that she could get away. So yeah, I thought her powers and like the way she was used was really enjoyable, and I thought she made like for a good foil for especially like this young and inexperienced of the Spider-Man. Like he's kind of naive and lets her get the better of him a lot, so that was cool. And I feel like this episode really it was probably the most standalone of the episodes we've had so far, but it does have some. It's still like I think this show is really capturing that like serialized storytelling that made the 90s show and Spectacular so enjoyable. And that Ultimate Spider-Man didn't really have, is from what I saw, and that it really feels like a soap opera, and the episodes bleed into each other, which is cool. You see Black Cat is stealing the Venom symbiote. Like that's the thing that she steals at the beginning that puts Spider-Man on her trail. So that was kind of a fun little, they're setting that storyline up. And we get Miles Warren, or I guess Raymond Warren, tries to get a job at Horizon High. So you see a little bit more with him, and you get an idea for like why he became the Jackal in the first place. Like they flesh him out a little bit more, because last week he kind of came out of nowhere, and you see him create the Rhino, which will come into play next week. So overall, I think the positives were really good. This week was not without its flaws. I really only had two problems. One, I'm not in love with their take on Otto Octavius. I think the idea of him being a teacher is fine. I'm just I think the voice cast for this show was pretty strong, and I think he's the one voice actor. Like I know he played Robin in Teen Titans. I don't know his name, but I know he's like he's like a good voice actor. I don't know if he's like the right choice for this part. And he's the one cast member that he hasn't completely sold me with his portrayal. Like I think all the other cast members are really solid. And I wasn't thrilled with the way Peter defeated Black Cat at the end. Like he used some like weird bad luck thing to cancel her bet. Like he kind of like like finagles things so that she runs into a whole bunch of bad luck, and then somehow that like cancels out her power. Like I didn't understand. Like there was some like pseudoscience behind that didn't make any sense to me. So that was kind of silly. But I don't know. I guess it's a kid's cartoon, so maybe I'm taking it too seriously or something. So overall, I think this is easily like maybe like a 9 or something out of 10, maybe like an 8. Like I think it's really enjoyable. Definitely the best episode so far. And then the next episode, Party Animals, and this was a really probably the least standalone episode so far. Like there's not even really like a standalone story in this episode. It's all kind of just advancing like our story threads. And this one I think was a little bit more mixed, but it was still like the flaws like weren't as glaring as the flaws in the first 3 episodes for me. General pros, I like how once again like I thought it juggled like probably 4 or 5 different plot lines really well. Like you have the Jackal, you have Norman Osborn kind of manipulating things with Harry, you have Peter and Harry's friendship kind of starting to fall apart. You see Peter working together with like Miles and Anya and like the other characters at Horizon High and Gwen. And you see the Jackal, like they established that he created the spider. He used to work at Oscorp and he designed the spiders that escaped and bit Peter. So I think that was seeding Spider Island or something, because I think they've announced that they're going to do that at some point. I don't know in this season, but like at some point down the line, that's something they're going to do. And I feel like maybe having the Jackal create those spiders was like a way to set that up. So that was kind of, cool. So again, I like the setting up the storylines. I think the way they wrapped up the Jackal storyline, like temporarily, I'm sure he'll come back, but it ended on a pretty, I think, well-written note. Like PC, Gwen is really heartbroken about her uncle being like a crazy, criminal. And you see that he kind of played a similar role in her life to like the role that Uncle Ben played for Peter. Like he was kind of her mentor and encouraged her to get into science and pursue her dreams and all that stuff. So I thought, that was cool. Like that they focused on the human emotion somewhat of that story. They wasn't just like, oh, her uncle's the Jackal. Isn't that crazy? And then like jumped on to like another plot thread, like some kids' cartoons do. It was actually, they were able to keep the story grounded in like relatively human emotion. And I thought my final pro was that the opening is really fun. You see like Peter fighting a spider, or Spider-Man, I guess, fighting a spider slayer. And I don't know, it was like a pretty cool action sequence, and it kind of like shows, and that the last episode showed this too, that like you see the citizens in New York are starting to kind of warm up to Spider-Man a little bit. So that was kind of cool. Like you're just seeing his reputation slowly grow and he's becoming more famous. And I liked how they're handling that. So those are my pros. Cons, I think the final fight with the Jackal was pretty lackluster. Like Peter just kind of fights him in his house, and then Gwen shows up and like hits him with a cure that turns him back into Raymond Warren, and then he gets arrested and the episode's kind of over. Like that was a little bit, their fight wasn't particularly memorable or exciting. They just kind of 2 guys like punching each other in a room, and then one gets defeated. So I wasn't thrilled with that. And what are you guys doing?
I was pretending to be like a slap fight.
Yeah, like they're doing this exactly, John. They're just like kind of fighting each other, but they just kind of fight each other and like.
I love how Jay goes, "What are you guys doing?" I'm on my phone here. I'm like, John, what did you do that got me in trouble?
Yeah, well, James is my least favorite, so I just immediately single him out. Oh, I'm kidding. So.
Right back at you, Dan.
Yeah, there you go. But that fight I thought was pretty underwhelming. Even though it did have a good line where the Jackal like starts to figure out that he's like, like he starts to put 2 and 2 together, that there's like a spider-themed superhero, and that he worked on genetically modified spiders at Oscorp. So you see very briefly, my cat is meowing at me. You see very briefly that he's what do you want, cat? You have everything. You have food. You have love. What do you want? Okay. Well, anyway, she walked away. Anyway, and then you have, what was I even talking about? Oh my God, this is like my worst. I'm going to be fired from the podcast after this episode.
It's okay, Jan. Just did you enjoy the episode?
Yes. Okay. Cons, right? So the final fight with Jackal was underwhelming, and the Rhino, like I thought he was just like a student at Horizon High that gets turned into a Rhino monster, and then he's just like a pawn of the Jackal. He has like no character or anything, and then they just cure him at the end. That was a little disappointing. And like between that and Shocker, like Shocker was just kind of like wasn't even really a villain. He was just kind of a pawn of like Norman Osborn. So I feel like some of the lesser villains are getting wasted a little bit here. So that's disappointing. Hopefully we do a more conventional Rhino at some point. Like, just kind of like the criminal, Rhino was just going to like, smash through a bank vault to steal money or something like that. I don't know. So overall, this is also a good episode. And I think I'm looking forward to the future of the show once again. I think they're taking a week off. Like, I think the episode that airs tomorrow morning is just they're just gonna like combine all of those like origin shorts into one like 23-minute episode and then air that or something. Like, I think we don't get a true new episode until 2 weeks or a week from tomorrow. So, and I think the episode a week from tomorrow is like the first big Venom episode. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Because that's like a storyline that pretty much every version of Spider-Man does. So it'll be interesting to see that. So there you go. I think these episodes are really good. And I think people who were turned off by the first few episodes should definitely like give it a second chance, because I think it's definitely turning around, at least for me. So there you go.
All right, James.
Here we go. Can we just appreciate some positivity? We were positive.
For people that don't know what this means, this is the look that the professional wrestler CM Punk used to do all the time. Because tonight, get ready for another pipe bomb by James.
Oh boy, it's like I've been looking forward to this all day. I'm not gonna lie.
I will clarify, it's a verbal pipe bomb. So YouTube, don't get mad at me. I mean, I'm gonna talk trash about a comic book. I don't mean anything else.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I've been looking forward to this all day, but now that it's here, I'm kind of like, oh man, maybe this is a bad idea. Like this might not be good.
John, I promise you, I'm not gonna do anything that's gonna make you regret. Okay? Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I keep this where you guys are just gonna laugh and have a good time while I roast the hell out of this crappy comic.
Oh, I'm
not gonna start taking cheap shots at the people behind the scenes like some podcasters do or anything like that. And I know I have done that before, so shut up. I mean myself.
I'm gonna I have a few roasts as well.
I have some roasts, but let's do it. One moment in time. Amazing Spider-Man.
It's more like it. Oh my God.
Amazing Spider-Man 638 through 641. James and I have been putting this off for about 2 years.
John held me to something I said one day when I was drunk.
You know what, James? Here's the thing.
I'm bullshitting, Jan. Remember that episode I said I regret, where we do the wedding issue? He held me to when I said, I guess during the episode or after the episode, that we should totally do a Omit next week or something like that.
And here's the thing. When we were discussing this episode, because we discuss these episodes before we do them, I said, does anyone have any ideas for back issues? And James said the other. And I said, James, I honestly can't tell if you're joking about that or not. And then he replies, Omit. And I'm like, that may actually be an interesting idea. Okay, Omit. But then James says, James, 48 hours later, after I've already reread the issues, planned out the podcast and everything, we're literally on the Skype call 10 minutes before this podcast started. And he said, oh, by the way, John, I suggested that as a joke. I guess you didn't get it. And I'm like, of course I didn't get it, James.
I like how
you said I could do it. You gave me free reign to drop a pipe bomb on this comic. So I'm not going to say no.
I like how John forgot to mention my contribution to the conversation, which was just various variations on fuck you, James, or go fuck yourself, James, or fuck off, James, when he was bringing up these ideas that made me want to go into my corner and cry.
Well, you see, Jan, if I had said that, it would have made you look bad, but you didn't. But I didn't have to because you just did that. So, congratulations, Jan. I'm sorry, Jan. You're a good person.
It's okay.
You are a good person, but
best thing anyone's ever said to me.
That's depressing. So Amazing Spider-Man 638, 639, 640, 641. I'm gonna do all the recaps because if James does a single one of them, we're gonna be here all night. And yes, we're doing.
I'm not gonna be here all night. Like I said, I'm gonna be on my good behavior as best I can.
We're gonna be doing each individual issue because we kind of have to. We can't group these together because there's too much in every single issue. We have to talk about all of it individually. Amazing Spider-Man 638. See, here's another predicament I'm having. Do I want to give the creative team here, or do I like? Because I feel like if I do that, it may not.
You got it, John.
I know because
Well, you do it, so I can do it right now.
No, Joe Quesada, writer. Paulo Rivera, artist.
Writer.
Joe Quesada, Danny Mickey, and Richard Eisenov, art, pages 1 to 6, 26, and 42, whatever that means. VC's Joe Caramagna is the letterer. And then pages from Amazing Spider-Man Annual 21 that were cropped into this issue. Jim Shooter plot, David Michelinie script, Paul Ryan penciler, Vince Coletta inker, Rick Parker lettering, Bob Sharon colors, Jim Salicrop is the editor. All right, here we go. We start off someplace, sometime. So descriptive. You really start this comic off by showing that you know what you're talking about, because clearly you don't. Basically, we're shown the deal with Mephisto, and Mary Jane whispers in his ear, I know Peter. He will never make this deal with you. Never, ever, unless I ask him to. But if I do, this is the end of it. You will leave him alone for the rest of his days. So basically, Mephisto agrees, and then we cut to, this is the present day in Brand New Day continuity. Mary Jane shows up with a bottle of alcohol, and Peter's like, what are you doing? And she's like, we need to have this talk. Peter's like, what talk? She's like, the talk about how it's been so awkward and cold and distant between us ever since I got back. We need to have the talk about what happened to us. And Peter's like, oh gosh. And she's like, this is why I brought alcohol. Peter's like, I don't drink. She's like, yeah, but I do. So let's get this show on the road. So basically, they're gonna have this talk. They're finally gonna work things out. They're finally gonna try to be friends again. We cut to several years ago. Literally, because we literally have pages from Amazing Spider-Man Annual 21 cropped into the issue. So Peter's in the black suit. He's going to stop Electro at this big robbery. He stops the bad guys, and he gets this one guy tied up to a lamppost. The guy's being arrested. He gets into the cop car, and the cop is like, yeah, you suck. That's a nice, that webbing is a nice look on you, dirtbag. And so the guy's like remembering the cop. He's remembering his name, remembering his face, because he's gonna take this guy down when he gets out of prison. But obviously the cop doesn't think anything of it, because it's like, this guy's gonna be in prison for like 20 years. It's like, this guy's not gonna be able to do anything to him. Then a red pigeon flies down out of absolutely nowhere. Actually, the sky, I'm presuming, because that's where pigeons come from. So the pigeon flies in, somehow gains access to this cop car, gets inside the car, lands on the steering wheel, then unlocks the entire car by stepping on the buttons of the cop car door, unlocks the door, the guy gets out, and runs away.
John, I want you to pause and think about what you just fucking said.
If I do that, I will fall into a state of deep depression, Jan. The ground below my feet is not strong enough to support me if I stand still. I have to keep moving. Oh man.
I gotta mute for a second.
James is screaming. It's not.
I think there was a meeting at Marvel, and they're like, all right, how do we explain the changes to the timeline that Mephisto made? And Joe Quesada's like, all right, guys, a fucking pigeon shows up. And then Marvel's like,
we are on page 18 of 45 with this comic. And this is part
You're telling
one.
me that those cops that were right directly out behind the cop car guarding it didn't notice him going out the other door? Didn't hear the door open? Cops in New York fucking city?
You know what happened, James? A bus drove by that had the jackal driving it, and they were so distracted by such a weird sight that they didn't notice.
Jackal was dead at the time, Jance. That goes right out the window.
See, it was a clone, James. You don't understand it. There were circles and shit like that, and smoke and mirrors, and like.
So was Carry On.
So then we see Peter. We cut to later in the evening. Peter and Mary Jane are saying, "Oh yeah, we have to go pick up our marriage license tomorrow. Blah 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 blah. See you tomorrow. Bye." Peter swings back to his apartment, and this is another conveniently cropped in part of Amazing Spider-Man Annual 21. Peter Parker is sitting in his apartment looking at pictures of Gwen Stacy. Because Gwen was the one he truly loved. How could he ever marry Mary Jane? Because he loved Gwen so much and he'd be betraying her memory.
Even though in the original goddamn comic, it was a scene where it's basically saying, I love Mary Jane so much, I don't want what happened to Gwen to happen to MJ too. But no, let's make it out that you know that, no, he really loves Gwen, because that's who Quesada thought Peter should end up with.
Then we cut to some shady bar. Josie's bar, actually. Oh, it's Josie's bar. And basically, the guy who got out of the cop car also got out of his handcuffs and is basically like, he got the name of this cop and his address from this one other shady guy. So basically, they're like, yeah, we gave you this information, so now you owe us a debt, blah, 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 blah. So this guy's going to go after the cop who arrested him. Meanwhile, Peter and Mary Jane go out to dinner, and, you know, Mary Jane's showing him the dress and everything, and Peter's like, oh, yeah, you know. So then we cut to Peter's bachelor party, where he expresses his second thoughts to Flash and Harry. And then we see Mary Jane's bachelorette party, where she's having a little bit of trouble herself. Then we cut to an original scene where Flash and Harry are like, man, Peter's having a lot of second thoughts. Way too many for a guy who's about to get married. Hey, did we ever have this conversation in the original issue? No. Actually, we encouraged him to go through with the wedding. Yeah, but did we ever have this conversation? No. So this is like a conveniently forced in scene that we're just having in here just to reinforce our agenda. Pretty much, yeah. So Mary Jane in another forced in scene is at her bachelorette party, and she's having second thoughts about being Spider-Man's wife. So then we cut back to another present day scene where basically, you know, things are getting tense because of this discussion, as they do. And then we cut back to Peter's dream about, oh no, the villains are going to hurt Mary Jane. And he's thinking, oh no, how could I ever, let this happen to her? And then the original scene that is probably the worst of the entire book. Peter hears gunshots. So he swings off, and it turns out that it's the robber going after the cop and the cop's family. So Peter intervenes, stops the robber. But then, out of nowhere, when Peter is not looking, this guy who has no superpowers, this random lowlife robber who has no purpose, who has nothing better to do than go around threatening innocent people and threatening good people like this cop. He has nothing better to do than do this. He has no superpowers. He's a terrible person. He somehow picks up a cinder block. A cinder block. And not only does he pick it up, he throws it 10, 20, 30 feet in the air and hits Spider-Man in the face with it. Jan, you're good at physics, right?
Well, I almost got a B, so
Does that sound like something that makes any sense to you? Could a person without super strength pick up a cinder block and throw it 20 feet in the air and aim it so accurately that it hits Spider-Man directly in the head? Does that
If he
sound
was-
like something that could happen?
If he was like Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger, maybe. Not this like pudgy, out of shape looking dude.
And here's the thing. I know that other people, other podcasts, other websites, other smart people, every smart person everywhere has brought up this criticism. I'm bringing it up again because it needs to be said.
Marvel needs to be held accountable for this comic.
This was the most ridiculous thing we've seen so far. And I want to remind you all, we are on issue 1. He hits Spider-Man in the head with a cinder block. So Peter's seeing stars. He runs after the robber. And then he catches the robber, but they fall to the ground, and Peter's knocked unconscious. And he misses the wedding because Spider-Man. And then
Don't forget that Mary Jane turns into a bitch at Harry and Flash for no goddamn reason.
No, I'm getting to that, James. Because Mary Jane shows up to the wedding. Peter's not there. She overhears Harry and Flash talking about how Peter was having second thoughts. She flips out at them. The issue ends. Mary Jane walks away in her wedding dress. And then in the present day, basically, she's pouring more alcohol because this discussion is not going well. I'm going to give my thoughts first on this issue because I'm going to save James for last. We're going to save the best for last. WTF. Can I just say, they took... I mean, there's really nothing I can say that James isn't going to say. That James isn't going to say.
I just want to come in on. I just want to say this. I agree with you. What you're going to say about the annual.
They took pages from ASM Annual 21 and put them in here, but then left the rest of ASM 21.
Ignoring the positive parts, pretty much, and just kept like the little the drama parts.
And then came up with. Oh my gosh. This is complete BS.
Like, why isn't Peter reminding her? Okay, I'll let John just go on.
I'm honestly like having trouble gathering my thoughts here because I'm just like, my brain can't process the level of stupid. I'm too smart for this comic.
They did the one thing that they said they were not going to do.
They literally took one of the worst stories, if not the worst, in Spider-Man history. And they literally made it worse. Because...
But in their opinion, this justifies it.
Because...
This is them proving that One More Day is good. By giving us another shit comic.
They literally, in trying to get themselves... Like, you know how it's like... It's like you screw up something, and you try to make it better, but you end up just making it worse. That's what they did here. Because their crappy idea for One More Day, when they tried to explain it, they tried to make it better. You can't make something like that better. You just made it worse. A red pigeon flew down and unlocked the car door.
John, it's still stupid.
And then this guy picked up a cinder block. Like, we all know how cinder blocks work, right? Heavy, sturdy, not easily movable. That's the point of cinder blocks. This random out-of-shape dude who has no superpowers, not only did he pick one up, he threw it 20 feet in the air and hit Spider-Man in the head with it. And Spider-Man could have easily dodged something like this. And then Peter is having second thoughts about the wedding. Name me one person who hasn't had second thoughts about their wedding. It's called being human. But guess what? In the original issue, he got over it because he loves Mary Jane.
They literally ignore every reason on how he ever got over it. Conveniently, all the scenes that are cut out from Annual 21 are the scenes that say why he should marry her. Because it didn't fit their agenda.
I wonder why.
So, Yeah, this thumb rating, it's a thumbs down because it's terrible. I mean, do you remember 2 weeks ago when we talked about the Clone Saga? And we had so much fun because Amazing Spider-Man 403 was one of the most fun comics I've ever read in my life because it was just so off the walls, batshit nuts. It was so bad. It was so terrible. It was amazing. That's not what this is. This is the polar opposite. It's so terrible, I feel insulted by this comic. Jan, how about you?
Oh, excuse me, John. I was reading the episode pamphlet to a season of TV that I actually enjoyed because it has this thing called competent writing, and that might be an alien concept to us after reading this issue. But there you go. I knew this issue was going to be bad. Seeing them use the old-fashioned art style, seeing them just use those pages from the annual, made it feel like they're tainting something that. I don't know. When I see artwork from that era of Spider-Man, I get this, kind of nostalgic, the good old days, back when I, really enjoyed the comics and stuff, and seeing them use that to, like James said, I wouldn't go as far as agenda, but to see them use those pages to so out of context to make their stupid, poorly written excuse for a status quo seem justified was just
So it is an agenda.
Yeah, I get maybe it is an agenda, but it just rubbed me the wrong way. I did not like this issue. It's just not well written. It's not. There's not. I mean, I don't know. Some of the action is okay, I guess. It's not good at all. Mary Jane is not Mary Jane. She is a slightly worse version of the Kirsten Dunst Mary Jane from Spider-Man 2 and
I don't
Spider-Man
even
3.
agree with that.
No, I would take the Kirsten.
Because Kirsten Dunst at least wanted to marry Spider-Man.
Kirsten Dunst looks like a saint compared to this Mary Jane, but we'll touch more on that in future issues.
I'll take water clone Mary Jane from the 90s show over this, because at least that one did marry Peter Parker.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
But she was bad. This is a bad issue. You should not spend money on it. There you go.
Okay, now this is the part where it's you ever see those clips where it's a guy at a gate with a key, and behind the gate is a bunch of horses that are about to run out, and and the guy knows that he's going to get pummeled. It's kind of what I feel like right now, because it's I'm about to unleash wild horses when I say this next sentence. James, give us your thoughts.
Oh, but before he goes, can we talk about the fucking pigeon? What the fuck?
When I get to it, then you can add your 2 cents.
James, take me away.
Let me bring you back to 2010 when this comic came out. I remember when the ads started to show up, and I believe it was at Comic-Con, Quesada was bringing out pins that said, "Omit Amazing Spider-Man," and the whole internet shook because they knew this is the sequel to One More Day he was talking about. And I remember being slightly excited for it because I thought, okay, they'll explain the timeline change and move on. And I didn't even get that with this comic. This is the moment where there's a reason why I started to fall out of love with Spider-Man around this time. Because this is when I knew that the Spider-Man that I've been reading since 2004, the Spider-Man that technically I've been seeing since I was a kid, was never coming back. This is the day that Spider-Man officially died for me. One More Day wasn't the death nail, because I still had hope they're going to bring, not maybe the marriage back, but at least they're going to put Peter and MJ back together, and we'll get a complementary Peter Parker. They just want to tell their stories for a couple of years, and then we'll go back to the status quo, and everything will be right with the world. And this comic in front of me says, that's never going to happen as long as the same people here are in charge. Because then we got, in my opinion, the second worst Spider-Man storyline of all time. And it's a sequel to, in my opinion, the worst. The only thing that saves this from being the worst is it's not this piece of goddamn shit. We start off with an actually pretty cool, badass cover that shows them at the Empire State Building. Kind of convenient you cut out that moment from the actual goddamn Annual 21, but it's on the cover. Oh, here's the first middle finger. Remember this? We're going to fuck this whole issue up for you.
It's like, remember this?
And then we get to the moment when I said Spider-Man died. I'm saying you're finally going to know what she whispered in his ear. And it's just a page 1, moving on, not important. Because her deal to Mephisto, that was such a great deal that she had to accept it to make sure that Peter's secret identity was the same, added on to the clause of the deal. Isn't even a deal, that a bargain that she could give him. It's just her saying, I'll make him take the deal that he was already going to take. That he was guilt-tripping you, MJ, to take. I know I'm never going to get to one more day, so let me touch upon this final piece of shit right now. Peter Parker's internet so goddamn out of character, he guilt-trips MJ by saying, if we don't take this deal, I'll never forgive myself. But now we're told that no, she's the one who made him do that. Because we hate MJ now because the fans don't like our new status quo. So fuck them. They took pages that's been confirmed on Call of Mythology, if you zoom all the way in, where she says, let me have all the memories. I'll have all the pain. Just leave Peter alone. Where it actually makes her a sympathetic character to basically her being a mustache-twirling villain who manipulated Peter into taking the deal.
I just want to point out.
Do you want me to write it, Chan? Do you know what Quesada's first comic book ever was?
No.
The drug issue. He brings it up on the Spider-Man 1 DVD and all that stuff. His first comic was a drug issue because his dad wanted to make sure his son never got into smoking and drugs. Which is confirmed because Quesada has an anti-drug and, smoking ban on the comics. He said, that my dad didn't realize. He wanted me to read that comic so I wouldn't get addicted, but he created a new addiction that was comic. You want to know what happens in that issue? It very much kind of, because Mary J at the time, because it was written by Stanley, was very much just the dumb, valley girl, airhead. So she comes off as very unlikable. Like, she doesn't really love and care about Harry when they're dating, and that kind of. So you can see a kid saying, she what drove that guy to do drugs. She must be the bad guy. And this is him putting his own mandate of what he saw when he was a kid. We got to make sure that people know that she's the reason that Harry Osborn did the drugs. She's not a good girl. She's not Gwen Stacy. She shouldn't be the one who ends up with Peter Parker. Even though she already did. Move on with it. Then we go to this page, which is another big what the fuck to you fans. We got this page. Where, with a smile on her fucking face, after we just get a big middle finger from One More Day again, we get Mary Jane smiling, saying, I bet you're all freaking out, breaking the fourth wall, saying, I bet you're freaking out about this right now, aren't you? You're not funny. You're being a dick, Quesada. And that's not me calling the guy an asshole. That's not me making a personal shot at him. That's a dick move. I think anybody here would agree that's a dick move. And then we got to make sure you see her drink, because again, Quesada's anti-drinking, anti-smoking, and all that stuff. So we got to make sure you know that she's going to drink and Peter doesn't drink because she's not good. She's not good for him. And then she goes, let's go talk about the wedding annual. Okay, I'm not going to really complain about this crap, because this crap did happen. It was just pretty much Jim Shooter like, we got to have a supervillain fight, so let's throw it in the first 5 pages of the goddamn annual, and then we'll get it over with. But then we get to this bullshit. And Jan, I'll let you interrupt me for a second so you can bring up your 2 cents about the pigeon.
What the fuck? So, a fucking pigeon, flies in there. It's red. Did Mephisto, turn into a fucking pigeon and, let the criminal go? Why not just...
Pretty much.
Not just... He's a demon. He could probably be invisible. Just, show up, open the fucking door, say, hey, do your shit. Or better yet, go out and directly influence the events, why the fuck does he turn into a fucking pigeon and like?
Because he was a red bird in One More Day. It's a callback.
Well, I've never read One More Day, so
in
I guess
One More
that's...
Day, before Mephisto shows up, he's following Peter Parker and MJ all day at the hospital and everything as a red pigeon.
Well, that's not a story we should be calling back to or referencing.
But this whole book is saying about how you don't understand how great One More Day is, and they had to do it.
Yeah,
and
well,
what Janeway said about the pigeon, this is how I feel. Good, young Skywalker. Good. Let the hate of the dark side flow through you. Only this is the light side, because this goddamn comic is the dark side.
Yeah.
It's justifying the devil. Yeah, I agree with everything Jan says. You've got the Mephisto bird causing this. We see right fucking there, the cop is right outside the cop car. He doesn't hear the doors open and the guy getting the fuck out? Are you fucking kidding? You're literally writing this as dumb as you can to fit your agenda. You didn't even need this guy. You did not even need him. You could have been any goddamn villain. You're changing the timeline. You could have been Mephisto pretending to be some motherfucker to beat up Peter Parker and actually do damage to him. To make him like the
Think about that. That would have made it so much better. Just have Mephisto, like, you know.
Like, you could say it was like a Marvel team-up like event that happened at the time. The Mephisto sucked Peter Parker into a dark dimension, and then him and another hero had to get out, and by the time he did, it was like 2 days later, and he was late.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been...
Then it's effectively Mephisto being the villain, screwing it up.
It still would have been a
dog
dog shit.
Because we gotta prove to you why these wedding comics suck. So then, like I said, we get to them getting back from the Empire State Building scene, but we don't actually get to see it, because that's a great goddamn scene from the actual original goddamn comic. You want to know what else they conveniently skip over during this whole point? Peter getting thrown a batch, Mary Jane dropping off her clothes and saying how much she and Peter love each other. You got Peter at the Bugle, you know, getting a surprise party, and even Jonah buying him, you know, shit for it because he's like a son of Parker. And you're skipping over all that as everybody's wishing him luck, including Betty, who still thinks Ned's alive because this is when she was nuts. And you skip over him actually finally getting her a ring to propose to her while wall crawling while they were making a romantic dinner for themselves to celebrate their wedding, their engagement. But that's not important. That is so fucking unimportant. We have to skip right away to the goddamn him looking at the Gwen Stacy photo, which is completely out of goddamn context of what he was actually doing. And then we get to more of where they fucking skip over shit. Because you want to know what they did after Peter had the whole flashback to ASM-15 and the Gwen photo? They went out to dinner with Anna Watson and May Parker, where they announced their engagement to the two people who literally spent issues of the original run trying to get them to just go on a date. And now those two people are saying that they're going to get married, and they are so happy for them. And Peter talks about his worries and about it because of what the Gwen photo from earlier. And let me read the actual thought balloon for you, Jan, that Aunt May says. Now look here, young man, you're a Parker, and you got more gumption than anyone I know. You will love that little girl, and you will do what's right for her and let the chips fall where they may. Yes, ma'am. Just spare some love for me, but don't let me come between the love that you two share for each other. I want the irony to sink into that. Kind of funny how Kasota skips over a scene where Aunt May pretty much says that One More Day was a fucking bad idea. Yep. Kind of convenient that he skips over that, isn't it? Kind of convenient that Peter doesn't point that out. That like, well, we had dinner with our aunts, and they completely said we were meant to be together. But they don't bring this up because it's not part of the agenda. And then we go to their dinner where, yes, Peter again was feeling the guilt because this is where the dream sequence comes in here. Is these pages, they put it out of order for fuck it. They're having, you want to know why they're out to dinner together again? Because they just picked up their marriage's license and they were going through with it. Peter has his doubts, but he still goes with the woman he loves because once he sees how she talks about her dress and how beautiful it is and how she just wants to make her the most beautiful woman because Peter Parker deserves to have the most beautiful bride on his wedding night. And he realized that she deserves me on her wedding night too. But that's convenient to skip. Let's go to the bachelor party where Flash Thompson's "be a fucking man, don't be Putin Parker" speech is completely changed to, "Nah, I didn't mean it, he has too much doubts." Let's take the Bruce scenes out of context to make it out like maybe Mary Jane did go home with him that night. And then you get the goddamn worst goddamn part of this goddamn comic book.
Is it the brick?
How the hell did an average guy who doesn't have superpowers throw a goddamn cement block on Spider-Man's head and it knocked him out? The guy can take a punch from the Incredible Hulk, from Thor, from Thanos, from Mulan.
See,
You get hit by a bus. But yet, one little brick gives him a concussion and knocks him out with this fat ass falling on him. And he misses the wedding because he's so concussed he can't push the guy off of him.
hey James.
Spider-Man, who had famous scenes where he's under a block of goddamn rubble and pushes the fucker up. Can't push one goddamn normal human being?
James, remember that scene in Spider-Man Homecoming when the Shocker punches him and then he immediately gets up and gives chase? Remember that? Where a punch from a superpowered gauntlet didn't even slow him down at all.
To the parts where they make you out like, oh my god, they're both going to no-show their wedding. But then Mary Jane shows up. And in the original comic, Peter shows up because he had a wall crawl to get to the wedding on time. But he got there. She said, "You're fashion lights, I forgive you." And then they say their vows where she calls him the most special man in her life. And then Peter gets over Gwen. And the worry about Gwen falling off the bridge happening to MJ. Because he goes, she knows what she's getting herself into. And the fact that this beautiful, loving, sweet woman still wants to take me as her husband. The woman who says she never wants to get married, got married to me because of this. How can I say no to her? I do. Well, this comic completely changes to MJ being a bitch and snapping at Aunt May, fucking Harry, fucking Gwen. Jonah says, "I knew it," even though he was throwing him the bachelor party. And then we got to show MJ drinking while Peter takes the tea because we got to reinforce to you, she drinks so she's bad. I fucking hate this comic.
Well, James, you know what you're also gonna hate? Amazing Spider-Man 639. Because this is part 2. Oh boy. So Peter and MJ are still talking, sitting, having their discussion. It's not going well. Have we stressed that enough? It's not going well. Not for them, not for us, nobody. So Peter, we see a flashback, not a flashback, but an original scene that is a flashback, where basically everyone's talking about how much of a terrible person Peter Parker is, and Spider-Man's swinging around the city, trying to find Mary Jane. He finds her at the apartment, and she basically said, I'm just gonna read the comic. We're gonna have story time, kids. I'm gonna read the comic. We're gonna have story time. Chelsea, New York. Okay, room. Just stop spinning for a sec so I can remember where I put my bed. He finds a piece of the wedding dress on the floor. So, what was it? He turns. He sees Mary Jane sitting on the couch. Some mascara running down her face. Crying. MJ. Cold feet. Couldn't go through with it? Question mark. Do I mean that?
He's clearly beaten up and concussed, but yeah, he had cold feet and couldn't go through with it.
Do I mean that little to you? No. MJ, you humiliated me. Please, I can No! Just stop! Stop it! No more excuses! I overheard Flash and Harry talking about the stuff you said last night. MJ, please, take it off. MJ, take that damn thing off you if you want to speak to me. Ugh. He pulls the mask off. He's got the black eye. He's got the bruises. Oh dear God, Peter, I can't. I just can't anymore. MJ, it's not like that. It had nothing to do with cold feet. I know. I know. It was Spider-Man stuff. That doesn't make it any better, Peter. In fact, it's worse. See, you having cold feet, I could live with that. What I can't live with is the fact that I have cold feet. Not about you, but about this thing. It's the mask. How many times has this come between us?
Never. It never has. Him being Spider-Man has never been the reason why you ran away from him. It had to do with your own personal problems with your dad and stuff like that.
I thought I knew what I was getting into when I said yes. That I was okay with being the wife of Spider-Man. But you know what? I'm not.
She was! She fucking was!
I'm sorry, Peter. I just didn't think it through. I'm not as smart as you. And I'm sorry it took something like this to make me see it clearly. I don't want this. I don't want to be Spider-Man's wife. I want to be yours.
You were!
Peter, I never thought I would ask you this, but MJ, I can't. You bastard! MJ, wait. No, you don't get to say wait. You don't get to have me wait around for you anymore. You don't mean that. No, don't you touch me. Don't you ever touch me. Slam. MJ, please. He falls into the door. So then, the conversation in present.
I think I just saw James die. I think I just saw like a
so
part of his.
goddamn out of character. It's like it's painful as a fan of these characters. Like I said, marriage or no marriage, it's just make them written the way they should be.
I agree.
They're both out of character in this whole goddamn scene. It's like I'm not even listening to Peter and Mary Jane.
In the present day, the conversation is getting ugly again. We flash back to an original scene where MJ and Anna Watson are having lunch, and basically Aunt Anna convinces her to give Peter another shot. So she goes back to Peter's apartment, and back to story time. Because it's the only way I can do this justice, is I have to read the comic to you. Peter? It's me, MJ. Look, I don't know if you're in there or if you ever want to speak to me again. So I'm just going to say this and go. I thought I was doing the right thing by leaving. You really hurt me. I didn't know what else to do. I know my leaving hurt you too. I know it did, and for that I'm sorry. See, it all didn't hit home. It didn't make sense until I saw all the things Spider-Man was doing. No matter how bad things were in your life, no matter how miserable Peter Parker was, Spider-Man was still out there trying to make the world a better place. That's when I asked myself, who was I? Who was I to ask you to stop doing something that wasn't in your power to stop? It would be like asking me to stop loving you. Door opens. Peter, good Lord, when was the last time you stepped out of this place? Outside of Spidey stuff? Never. MJ, look, I'm so sorry. I never meant... Peter, wait. Before you say anything, I need to say something. MJ, you can tell me I want kids. What? Wait, just wait. Let me just get through this. Since the day that I first knew that I was in love with you, I always imagined us having a child. I would have these fantasies. A little person who was a little bit me and a little bit you. I could see their face as clear as day. MJ, I didn't know that. You never told me. I know. Boy or girl? We see an image in her mind.
We see Annie. Let's call a spade a spade. This is Annie.
Yeah, we see it's Annie, and she's saying, I love you, Mommy. But she doesn't tell Peter that. She just looks at the window and says, it doesn't really matter. Why not? Because I've come to realize that I would never bring a child into a life like ours. What? That's my point, Peter. You know all about
we see Annie. Not only did they retcon Annie into the scene, but they completely make even baby May non-canon.
That's my point, Peter. You know all about my dad. How abusive he was. I would no sooner bring a child into a situation like that than... Wait, what are you saying? What I'm saying is that, What I'm saying is that while you never do the things that he did, your being Spider-Man is really no different. Yes, you're out there saving lives, but at what cost? The people who ultimately pay the price are the people who love you the most. Look around you, Peter, to the people who love you. Spider-Man is as dangerous as a loaded gun. So, did you just come by to tell me this? Tell me what I already know? No, I came to say that I've been doing a lot of thinking and that I love you too much not to be with you. But what? But I can never marry you. MJ, let me finish. See, to me, the reason I wanted to get married was to have kids. If that's no longer a part of the equation, then marriage is just a piece of paper. I never needed to marry you to be with you, Peter. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, but if kids are important to you and they're important to me, maybe we can work something. No, we're not doing this. You can never, ever ask me to marry you again. Please, don't ever put me in that position again. Not unless you're willing to give up that costume. If you can live with that, then I think I'm strong enough to live with this. Okay, I can live with that. But I can't live with you ever leaving me again. I won't ever leave you. Promise? Promise. It's good to know. I was getting pretty sick of ramen noodles. I love you, Peter. I love you too, MJ. Hey, want to go to Paris? CC, mi corazón. That's Spanish, you dope. I'd like to take a pause.
They try to say that everything from the spec annual on happened, but yet there's no goddamn way the spec annual can happen now because it's been weeks later. So all the people who are also there in Paris wouldn't be fucking there now.
So yeah, Peter then, is talking about how, they're like, where did it all go wrong after this? And then we start cutting to Civil War, One More Day. Basically, it's setting up the next issue. Oh yeah, at the end of this issue, Peter Parker saves Aunt May's life because chest compressions. He gives her CPR, and that somehow fixes her, even though it doesn't, even though it shouldn't, because it doesn't make any freaking sense.
Because it didn't fix her during One More Day, where they said it wouldn't work?
Because she got shot. You don't fix something like that with CPR.
Why didn't they just say the Mephisto did it with magic?
To be continued. Okay. Let's talk. Jan, you go first.
Okay. So obviously the relationship stuff is terrible. I'm not going to talk about it because I feel like the last issue, like with James, like I feel like we pretty much nailed down why that stuff is terrible and doesn't work, and it's not any different here. It's still terrible and doesn't work. What pisses me off is Mary Jane says, okay, so my dad beating me, or I assume beating me up as a little girl, is not as bad as having a boyfriend who loves me, but just happens to also have to like help other people. So sometimes he's not able to always be there for me, even though he loves me. It's just that he also has to look out and save like innocent people. So
I want to remind you, she dates a firefighter after this.
So
a real life superhero.
So what you're saying, I think that's kind of like an insult to people who actually have suffered from domestic violence in real life, to say that, having a loved one who just isn't always able to be there for you because of other, life or death obligations is like doesn't make any sense. Like, how is that even remotely similar?
Marriage is evil, according to Quesada.
Can we all just talk about this scene, because this is to me the worst scene I've ever read in Spider-Man.
She is completely out of character here. As somebody who has read that whole era, the Michelini run, where it was the early days of them being married, this should not even be coming out of her fucking mouth.
This is the most ridiculous thing.
We have fought balloons in the wedding issue, the spec annual, goddamn Kraven's Last Hunt was the next arc after this, the Venom stuff, every goddamn thing in those early days of the Michelini run, in the Jerry Conway runs on Spec and Web at the time. She doesn't think this stuff.
Can we just even, comparing Spider-Man to an abusive father?
No. It's.
I mean, look. Here's the thing.
I'm saying that Spider-Man is worse than an abusive father.
She literally created an equivalency between them. Can we just all go on the record and say...
The point that I think he's trying to make is, my father endangered me by beating me, and if some villain comes and takes our child and harms them, you're endangering our child?
That is not even close to the same thing.
But that's what I think. That's the point I think he's trying to make. And, like, nobody's telling Quesada. That's a fucking dumb point. That's like saying that any cop should not have a child, or any doctor shouldn't have a child, or any firefighter, or any soldier, or any real-life goddamn superhero like that should not have a child, because technically they're abusing their wife and their child by helping people.
It's bullshit. It is the worst moment of Peter and Mary Jane that has ever been written. It is Mary Jane's worst. This is the worst.
This whole book, this single book, I can at least like the previous year, because that's like just propaganda taking stuff out of context. This is character assassination, because now you're adding your own words.
This is the worst.
You're making her and Peter say this stuff. It isn't just you showing panels and saying, see, that proves my point. This is you making your own words and saying, see, it proves my point.
This is the worst issue for Mary Jane that has ever been written.
This is literally Quesada taking MJ out to a barn and pulling the trigger because he just assassinated the character.
I mean, Jan, I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you, but I basically just gave my thoughts right there. Is like it's.
Yeah, that's John saying. We'll let Jan finish up, and then I can say my points, because not just that childhood thing, which is shitty. That this whole MJ dialogue throughout this whole book, I have every page I got a little rant about everything. And I know some people are probably going to find me unlikable in the comments. I'm glad you're a fan. I'm trying not to piss you off, but you got to understand this comic is the devil. It's literally the devil, because Mephisto.
Yeah, this is just like a bad story. Like, I don't know. I think going forward, like, aside from like one key scene which I freaked out about in the group chat earlier today that John and James know what I'm talking about. Aside from one scene, the rest of this is just going to be like, yeah, this is like the worst story, one of the worst stories I've ever read. Like, what is there to even say? Like, I don't know. So I'm done. James can go Bonesaw McGraw on this thing.
Who's always ready?
I didn't sign up for a cage match.
Cup of coffee in the big time. Oh, yeah. Now let the Macho Man, Bonesaw McGraw, tell you why this comic sucks. For one thing, it gets me so mad I want to just not talk. Oh, yeah. It's like Hulk Hogan, a sucker and a jabroni. Oh, yeah. Reminds me when I went for my divorce with Elizabeth. Lord, that's what Randy Savage would say reviewing this book.
Rest in peace.
I watch a lot of classic Randy Savage today on the W Network. Randy Savage is one of the greats all time. Rest in peace, Randy. You're missed, buddy. I know I say buddy like I know him, but as a wrestling fan who grew up with Randy Savage, I feel like I knew the guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry now because this comic makes me depressing. I'm thinking about somebody I actually beloved dying. So then let's get to the point. The Mary Jane scene in the bedroom. The first one. She comes crawling into his room, beaten and bloodied and bruised. And she makes it out. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because it's not her fault. And it sounds crazy to say it's not her fault because it's a fictional character. But when you're writing a character to fit your own personal agenda, I feel like you're forcing them to say these things. Because you kind of are. I'm not trying to sound nuts here when I say this, but she's being forced to, this fictional character is being forced to say things that they shouldn't be saying. You have her first say, is it cold feet? Yeah, because cold feet automatically equals your boyfriend coming into his bedroom with an inch of his life, but... And then before he could even explain what the fuck happened, she just starts slapping him and saying, stay away from me. And does this look like somebody who you would care about? But we got to make her out like a bitch, because we need to make you realize that she wasn't meant to be with Peter Parker. And then she won't even let him explain things, because the ones that were in that original wedding annual, the real Mary Jane and Peter Parker, he would explain what happened, and then they would have fucking eloped that night. But no, we need to have a reason why they don't do that. Because instead, she just calls him a bastard and slaps him and slams the door and acts like a raging bitch and makes it all about herself because she can't live with being with Spider-Man. Even though Spider-Man has never gotten in the way of that relationship. It never has. After the wedding, when she became the wife, it did. But before then, there's not one goddamn comic where him being Spider-Man is the reason why she left. It was always because she loves this man and she couldn't deal with it because she didn't want her past. Because she couldn't deal with her own past and she couldn't get over it. But no, it's because she's a bitch who had to make it all about herself. And Peter's a fucking dumbass who got concussed. There's nothing with these two people I can like. This isn't the fucking Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson that I grew up with back issues, with the current JMS from when I got into it, with the Raimi movies, with the goddamn 90s show, the actually goddamn compliment we're in Peter and Mary Jane. They aren't these people. And then we go to the goddamn Anna Watson scene, where we gotta see Mary Jane walking around in skimpy outfits showing her boobs, because that's exactly what we needed. Because we need to remind you that she's a sex item. Because she's a supermodel. So she shouldn't be with Spider-Man. Because remember, she's a supermodel. And Peter Parker, who we're in a few fucking years are going to make a goddamn Tony Stark wannabe banging supermodels. Because he's a fucking rich douchebag. But you know what? He can't be with one now. Because he's a loser who can't even keep a job because we said so. And then we go to fucking her with Anna Watson, where she acts like a bitch to her own aunt. Because MJ would act like a bitch to Anna Watson. Mary Jane loved her aunt because she was like a second mother to her. But she's acting like a bitch to her by explaining to her, I think you're taking this a little bit too far. Because no, we got to reinforce our new status quo that MJ always hated Spider-Man. She loved Peter, but she hated Spider-Man. Which, again, was never in the fucking comic to begin with. Read any goddamn issue of Amazing Spider-Man before this. Not once did MJ hate Spider-Man. Gwen did, but MJ's not Gwen. But no, we gotta see MJ getting pissed off at a child. Because we gotta reinforce that she's a bitch and you shouldn't like her. Then we get to the scene that pisses me off in more than two ways. One, because she accuses Peter of being worse than an abusive father. And secondly, she just retconned the Clone Saga. They retconned Baby May, even stillborn as it is. They retconned that whole pregnancy arc. Hey, you know what we got selling right now around this time? The Clone Saga Epic Trades. And a Kane solo book going on at this time. You know what sells those things better? Let's say that two goddamn elements from the original comic that we're trying to sell to you in a goddamn omnibus-sized $50 collections. Let's say that not one, but two elements now did not fucking happen. Meaning that whole story you read falls fucking apart. Why did Peter and MJ leave for Portland? What snapped him out from being I Am a Spider? Why did he get pissed off when he found out that Ben was the clone? Because MJ was pregnant. But now they never had a baby, because if they had a baby, it would have been not Baby May from the Spider-Man universe, but for New Year's vows, Annie. And then they go around and they say, everything else that you read since that Specky annual, that was the sequel to the Wedding annual, happened. It couldn't have. Because there's people who MJ knew who were other models and other fan people who said, oh yeah, I'm just in town for the week. These events happen in the span of a week. So how did that thing still happen? How could it still happen with them in the honeymoon suite if they're not fucking married? How can Peter still be going through like I'm married to Mary Jane. How can I support her as the husband because it's the 80s? How can I support her as the husband if she makes more money than me? And they actually dealt with it. That makes no goddamn sense if she has her career, you have your career. He shouldn't have took the job from the Pumbaa. So, no, your fucking comic wouldn't have happened the same way you read it, only they weren't married. And then I already told you the whole fucking 90s pretty much didn't fucking happen, so you can't. Notice how they don't show you the 90s stuff in this flashback because they know that's BS. And then we get to Peter saying that the two biggest regrets he ever had in his life was unmasking in Civil War and Gwen dying. Not you missing your goddamn wedding day to the woman you've been with for 2 decades. That's not your biggest regret? The whole fact you missed that wedding day to the woman you love? Your one true soulmate, you fucked it up. But you getting photos on mass with Tony Stark, that's your worst moment. And then we get to more. And then we get to see, okay, Civil War happened. Back in Black happened. One More Day happened, but it didn't happen the same way we read it, because now they're going to retcon One More Day. Because that's totally going to make that story good now. And then we see Peter. You know when Mephisto showed up and fucked up the whole Marvel Universe? Well, now we say he never showed up because MJ caused it. So it's a butterfly effect. If he wasn't there to make the deal, how was he the fucking bird to prevent the wedding? But don't explain that. We don't explain that. We don't explain how that timeline paradox doesn't work. If Mephisto isn't a part of the story no more because the Mary Jane goddamn deal at the beginning of the first part, how is he not there to fuck up all this stuff? How is he that bird if MJ and them were in the present to take the deal? This whole book falls apart in part 2. And then we get to the final. Okay, the final one for this issue, let me clarify. The final part of this issue, middle finger. I gotta go back to goddamn One More Day here. I'm actually gonna pull out a copy of One More Day to prove why this comic sucks.
This is how low the bar is right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And I want to point out that James he compared Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, like that MJ Peter relationship, like favorably to this. Like that's just how bad this is. That's like an ideal version. Like, yeah, you know, I missed the Sam Raimi portrayal of that relationship. That looked healthy and productive in comparison to the way this is written. It's like, oh my god.
I gotta find the panel.
Does touching that comic make your skin burn
Here we
a
go.
little?
This splash page. This whole goddamn fucking... And I want to clarify, these aren't my original copies. I eventually did go back and rebuy them. Because my original copies are still probably burnt up ash in the middle of the woods behind my high school. Because that's what I did in my copies of One More Day. I regret that now because I burned a comic book and that's stupid. You can still like make money off them one day. That's why I rebought the comics. But... yeah, that's how pissed off I was as a 17-year-old kid. I burned them all. I don't even smoke. But my friends that did smoke and were smoking behind the school at the woods, I don't smoke, but I hang out with them too, you know, but I didn't smoke. And I even said, hey, can I borrow your lighter for a second? And I did. I regret that now, but I did at the time. Okay, we're showing that, you know, the Night Nurse couldn't help, Reed Richards couldn't help, Doctor Strange couldn't help, Doctor Doom, who owed Spider-Man a favor, couldn't help, Loki couldn't help, who owed Spider-Man a favor, Hank Pym couldn't help, Cyclops, why would you fucking go after Cyclops? Cyclops couldn't help, Beast couldn't help, Morbius couldn't help, Doc Ock couldn't help, some goddamn guy, I don't even know who the fuck this is supposed to be, some blonde dude. Oh, I think it's Connors, maybe. Couldn't help. Nobody. Not Doctor Strange with magic. Not Tony Stark with technology. Not Doc Ock. Not Doctor Doom, who also has magic and owes you a favor. Not Loki, who's a fucking god who owes you a favor. Nothing can be done. Everybody in this whole issue and the other 3 parts say, there's nothing we can do because she's an old woman who got shot by a sniper. She's dying. LOL, all he needed to do was CPR. Fuck off, Marvel. Fuck off. You want to know what my exact reaction was when I read this goddamn comic out to that final page? You know what, Marvel? Fuck off. 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 Fuck off.
How about
Off.
how about we go into 640?
No, I want to explain this. They spent a whole goddamn one more day telling us that nobody but the fucking devil can save Aunt May. And you're telling me now basic CPR is all? We could have prevented these 4 goddamn shitty comics if somebody, if Doctor Strange, if Tony Stark, if Cyclops, if Loki, if Doctor Doom, if a doctor would have gave her CPR, she would have lived. How is that not just a big old this by Marvel? And that's why I say back to them, fuck off. 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 Any variation you
640.
say the word fuck off, they get it.
640. Same creative team. So, yeah.
Oh, John, to be a creative team, you need to be creative.
Mary Jane is basically the issue starts with Mary Jane saying, "Wow, that was a bunch of bullshit." Like,
Actually, no. I'm gonna correct James here. They are creative because having a fucking pigeon release a criminal is creative. It's awful.
Creative because
Poorly
at least they know how propaganda works.
At least it's creatively terrible. I mean, it's terrible, but it's like I never thought I'd see a fucking pigeon like release a criminal. But there you go.
So back in the present day, Mary Jane's saying, "So you saved your aunt with CPR?" Yeah, I was there for it, and I still can't believe it because it's complete bullshit. So then Peter, we flash back, and Peter's talking to a doctor, and the doctor's like, "Love." Excuse me? I don't usually subscribe to theories of this sort, but sometimes there's just no other explanation. No offense, Doc, but what are you talking about? Your aunt was
This is
beyond...
the doctor that told them that Aunt May had no hope.
Your aunt was beyond anything we could do to prevent her from dying. We were out of options. Yet, there she is. Her vitals are up and getting stronger, and it looks like, barring any unforeseen setbacks, she's going to make a full recovery. When I look around and try to explain how something like this happens, and I see 2 people by her bedside who never gave up hope, I just have to say to myself...
No, they did give up hope. When you make a deal with the devil in order to get what you want, that's giving up hope.
And
I'm a Christian, but I'm not that fucking religious. But if you gotta go to resort to deal with the fucking devil, then you didn't keep hope.
I just have to say to myself, love saved her life. And so, yeah, basically you see a nurse or a receptionist or something at a desk. She calls the Kingpin. She's like, yeah, his aunt didn't die. So the Kingpin's like, okay.
They were using fake names and everything. That nurse should have known he's Peter fucking Parker.
So then the Kingpin's
They were using her maiden name Riley.
So then the Kingpin's like, okay, well then, I'll just have another hit on. I'll just have another gunman go out. And so Mary Jane gets a call from her Aunt Anna, and she's like, hey, I thought I heard something going on outside the house. And Mary Jane's like, oh shit, okay, I'll be right over. So she goes, and she tells the nurse, like, hey, don't tell Peter I left. Just tell him I stepped out for a minute. So she goes over there, and what do you know? It's the guy who threw the cinder block. It's the guy who the pigeon let out of the car. He's about to kill Aunt Anna, and Mary Jane's like, no, you're not. And then he starts trying to kill Mary Jane, and then he shoots a dog. An Amazing Spider-Man comic features the death of a dog.
Not one.
Two
Because he
fucking
also
dogs.
snaps the neck of another one. And as a guy who owns a dog, fuck off.
Oh, I'll get to that.
And then Tom Brevoort shows up in this comic back at the hospital.
Remember, he's the guy who told fans to shut up and take their medicine. And is the guy who pulled when they did like the worst comics of all time for Marvel. They're the ones that put a random what if from the 80s as number one, even though by a large margin, One More Day one. Because as he put it, you don't appreciate it yet.
So Tom Brevoort...
So of course he's in this fucking book.
Yeah, Tom Brevoort
Just
shows
fuck
up.
off.
Yeah, so Tom Brevoort shows up, and Peter's like, you're going to be my sidekick. Help me out. And so he's like, yay, cool. And then Peter's like, bye. So Peter goes off to Aunt Anna's house. Peter goes off to Anna Watson's house, and basically she kicks the guy in the balls, and so she manages to get away just long enough for Peter to come in and save her, and then Mary Jane basically just starts, Mary Jane is just absolutely freaking out as she does, it's like as she would if some guy's trying to kill her, and so Peter, she blacks out. Peter takes her to Doctor Strange because he finally realizes, I have to undo this. I have to undo the unmasking. So he goes to Doctor Strange, and he's basically like, you need to put my identity back in the bottle. And Doctor Strange has to go discuss this with a few associates, Tony Stark and Reed Richards. And this leads us into 641.
You mean he has to go talk to the Illuminati, and according to the Bible, the Illuminati are a bunch of devil worshippers who made a deal with him. Kind of funny how it all goes back to making a deal with the devil, because you can't fix this. It's still shit, Kosada.
I can't even. I'm going to use a phrase that usually I don't like when people use, but it's the only phrase that I can think of to use here at this point. I can't even with this book.
You can't even recognize it because they're both acting completely out of character just to justify editorial mandate.
I don't know if it's the fact that it's 12:30 here and I'm tired. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's me just saying, like, I'm too smart for this comic, which makes me sound like completely arrogant, and I'm not being arrogant. I'm just like, I have a brain.
Because they're dumb. They literally they had to do the dumb route for everything because that's the only way the story makes sense. Because the second you add logic to anything they do, this whole goddamn book falls apart.
First of all, she was shot by a sniper. You can't fix someone like that with CPR. Second, Tom Brevoort being in the book.
The guy who's been, other than Kosada, he's been the second most vocal about One More Day being a masterpiece that we don't appreciate yet.
I'm not saying this as a slight to Tom Brevoort. I cannot stand it when creators...
Oh, I will. I'm going to call him out for all his bullshit that he has said and with his cameo here.
I cannot stand when creators cameo in their own books. It's distracting. It takes me out. And
especially when it's just them saying, see, we're right. Ha ha!
I cannot stand it. And this is not just for Tom Brevoort. I can't stand it when anyone does it. So I cannot stand that. I cannot stand Mary Jane because, again, like James said, there's nothing more I can say. Out of character. And we'll get to this in 641. The ending. Doctor Strange has to go talk to Tony Stark and Reed Richards because...
Again, this issue, they said they couldn't help him. In fact, Tony mentions goddamn twice. Earlier when he goes to see him when he's visiting all these fuckers, and again in the first goddamn issue, One More Day, Tony says, I can't help you because you're a fugitive with the Resurrection Act. Why is he doing it now?
I can't even with this book. We still have one more issue left, and I'm just like, I can't even get through this.
Can I get through my review of this issue?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet so we can get to the final issue.
Can I talk about the thing after James?
Yes, Jan, we're going to save you for last. Jan, don't worry. We didn't forget about you, Jan.
When you got to point out in your first page how dumb an idea it was that you did, that doesn't make you clever or smart. That just makes you dumb. That's like me saying, I know 2 + 2 is 4 and not 75, but I'm going to put it down there anyways. And then we get to, like I said, the power of love did it. It was a miracle. A deal with Satan isn't miracle and hope and the power of love. If you ask me, that's the complete opposite. Show of hands, who thinks a deal with the devil Satan is the complete opposite of that. They weren't at her bedside the whole time. Peter was being a whiny little emo bitch. And also being super happy friendly time with the Avengers. Because no goddamn writer knew what the fuck they were doing at the time with Spider-Man. Because who cares? One more day it's happening. It's all going to get retcon, so who gives a shit? Then we get the nurse. Who shouldn't even know that she's Aunt May. They were using fake names. Jarvis claimed that she was a relative of his, and May claimed that she was her niece, and that's just her husband, who was going by the fake name of Ben Reilly. There should be no goddamn way this nurse knows it's Peter. I get it if you can say that she used common sense and looked at the fucker, but on records, that's not May Parker. There's no fucking way that a nurse that we never even see in the original One More Day and this comic even actually get a good look at Peter and MJ should know who the fuck they are. But somehow, the one person who recognizes them, the fake name, just happens to be working with Kingpin. Who, this is also a minor complaint I have with this issue of Spectacular Spider-Man. If Kingpin knows Peter Parker's Spider-Man, he should be shitting in his bed right now in that prison. Because Spider-Man said, if you fuck with me one more time, and he meant it. But no, he just immediately went right back to trying to kill his aunt and his wife again, or girlfriend. Because, right here where they're hinting that he might know the secret again after family business. Again, Kingpin doesn't go after Peter Parker and try to kill his aunt because he probably knows if he does it one more time. Because that's an actually competently written Spider-Man story. And then we get to the part that's also going to be a problem with the next issue. Aunt May Mary Jane throughout all, again, these comics keeps on saying, your aunt is just old. Maybe it's her time. It's not your fault that your aunt got shot. I'm with you because I love you. We're going to do this together as a team. I could have left with Aunt May and Anna Watson to Canada to flee the Restoration Act and be safe and let you deal with the shit in New York, but we're staying with you and I'm choosing to stay because I love you. She blames goddamn Peter Parker and on Massey because she hates goddamn Spider-Man for her aunt getting shot because now she's a selfish bitch. It's okay when it's his aunt who gets shot and she says she'll stay with him till the end. But when it's her aunt, she flies because MJ's a selfish bitch because Joe Quesada doesn't like her. Kind of noticing a theme here. How every MJ moment here is, I got to make her look like a bitch so that because I don't like her. Then we get the dog murder, and as the dog owner, fuck off. Don't do that. Tom Brumor. This is the guy who, when I can't remember what had happened, but the X-Men had a big wedding issue, and as a variant cover, they showed all like a montage of every Marvel wedding issue. Like every wedding was spotlight on the cover, except for Peter and MJ. And when asked why, he said he specifically pulled it. I think that's what it is. I think he said he pulled it, or at least he was like trying to cover up for it. But like he pointed out that, well, we wanted to put a happy marriage. Because Hank Pym and Janet was a happy marriage.
Nope.
They made the cover. But Peter and Mary Jane didn't. Because they wanted a happy marriage. A loving couple that loved each other through thick and thin. Guy beats his wife. But remember, Spider-Man married to Mary Jane is worse than an abusive husband.
Yeah.
Again. This is the guy who, again, years later, when he said the fans are getting over it, just be a man and undo the marriage. His reply is, you know what? Fans didn't understand that, okay, this is the complete opposite of what they tell you. The customer is always right and all that stuff. And as someone who works in the business, I get it. It's not really that the customer's all right, but you must make them feel that they're right by giving them what they want, even though you think you're right. This is, we're not going to give them what they want because we're going to tell them how we're right. Because he goes, sometimes you got to take your medicine because you might not like it, but it makes you feel better. And it saves the character. Yeah, this guy gets a fucking cameo and the big middle finger to those fans. Because fuck off. And then we get to the whole part where she said, you said you would never leave me alone, you will always save me. You know, like every goddamn issue that supposedly still happened, she should know that he was always there to save her ass. And be there for her. Just like she was always there to save him. Like in that goddamn issue with Jonathan Caesar where she got herself out of it and saved Peter because she ended that goddamn comic by saying, because that's what we do when we're in love with each other. But no, this one moment is where she says, you said you would be there and you lied to me. Even though we just see right here, who was there for her? And then we go to the Illuminati and all their bullshit. The same people who said they couldn't help Peter for various reasons, including Tony Stark because Peter's non-registered. Why would he make him not remember he's Spider-Man and making him not be a criminal no more and give him a free pass? Now it says okay.
Jan.
Oh yeah. I'm tired. So, the thing that pissed me off.
But the comments are pissing me off. I can stay up now all night.
I'm
gonna have to go back and read good Spider-Man comics after this.
Yeah, me too. I don't know. I might read the first Ultimate. Anyway.
No, I'm gonna go back and read the whole Michelini era in order because I gotta read Peter and Mary Jane where they're written competently. I gotta go back and read GMS stuff because again, I gotta read this couple written competently.
Yeah, that would help. But the thing that pissed me off. Okay, there are two things if you really want to get under my skin, in like any form of entertainment, and that is killing animals or killing little kids. And killing little kids is why I'm not going to see it, even though I've heard it's a good movie, and I'm not a fan of clowns. And killing dogs is why I fucking hate this issue, because what the fuck was the point of graphically shooting like a dog in the throat, a dog that happens to look a lot like my dog, so that that was fun to look at. And it's not like, it's not real. It's like a fucking drawing or whatever. But it's still like, this is a Spider-Man comic. The guy, like, remember when Spider-Man...
Have you read Kraven's Last Hunt?
They don't, like, murder fucking dogs in there.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker will not kill, but he rips the head off a tiger.
It's different.
Mary Jane beats the rat to death.
Tigers are big and scary. This is not the same thing at all. You're like making this is not even comparable.
And I'm not defending this comic. I'm just saying though, like they're both kind of bad if you think about it, if you're an animal activist.
Yeah, but I like dogs are cute and lovable.
It's out of character though for Peter Parker to say, "Oh, I won't kill anything," but I'll totally rip a head off a tiger.
Yeah, I'm not. Whatever. About the comic we're reviewing today though, that was unnecessary. It was like gruesome. It's just like it's like unpleasant to read. Like I'm just like this doesn't add anything to the story. Like, why did he have to kill those dogs? Like, it felt like padding. It was like just there's something like mean.
Like to show you that this guy's an asshole and he's a murderer. That's all.
Yeah, but you establish that by the fact that he's trying to kill MJ and the fact that
exactly. But they got to remind you that this guy's an asshole, and this is all Peter and MJ's fault for having the gall to get married 2 decades before.
Yeah, it's so stupid. So that was what just fucking pissed me off. Like, I'm if I hear that animals or little kids are being harmed in something, like I'm just not going to watch it. And I don't know, that just like that whole sequence really kind of pissed me off. And I'm like, yeah, fuck this comic. Like that was my like fuck you moment. Like I'm like, okay, it was really bad, but it wasn't like offending me. I'm just like, this is terrible. I'm just going to pretend this never happened after I read it. And then that was the moment where I'm like, okay, fuck you. Like this is a terrible comic. I'm not going to ever. Like, this is non-canon. It didn't happen. I'm going to expunge it from my memory after we finish this episode. So.
641. Yeah. The final part. We're almost done. We're almost done. Then we can move on with our lives. All right. So, Peter's like, MJ, please, can we stop? The readers can't handle this much. And MJ's like, no, we have to torture them for one more issue. So we flash back to Strange, Stark, and Richards, all in the astral plane.
Peter and Mary Jane remember shit that they weren't there for?
I didn't even think about that.
They remember word for word shit that they were, again, shitty written. I don't care what side of the fence you are on Peter being married or not, or with MJ or not with MJ. They're remembering shit that they weren't there for.
Yeah.
So basically, they're saying, hey, we did something like this for the century. And, look.
That was pre-Restoration Act.
Yeah, it's like, it didn't end that well. And Strange is like, but it worked for a while. And Tony Stark and Reed Richards are like, yeah, it worked until it didn't. It was a bad idea. It worked until it didn't. And
we'll be fair, Peter Parker, goddamn nutso Bob Ryan. Or Bob Reynolds, whatever his name was.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, and so Reed Richards is like, look, should we even do this? And Stephen Strange is basically like, look, you know why we have to do this? Because, much like Steve Rogers, the boy is truly the best of us. And Tony Stark is like, yeah, look where that guy's Steve, he's fucking dead. And Stephen Strange is like, well, do you want Peter to end up that way? And Tony's like, I guess not. And so basically they all agree that Strange can't do this spell by himself. He needs Reed Richards and Tony Stark to do it because reasons. Like, he needs their help because of reasons. I don't know. I don't even try to figure out this mystical mumbo-jumbo bullshit. So yeah, basically they agree to it. Peter's like, it's okay, MJ. He's talking to her while she's, unconscious. It's okay, MJ. I'm going to fix it. And Strange is like, everyone will forget you're Spider-Man. All you have to do is get into this dome. And so Peter goes into the dome, but he's like, no, I have to bring MJ in with me. She has to remember. I can't live without her knowing. And so he does it. And then Peter and MJ, they go back to the hotel. Or Peter takes MJ back to the motel. And this is where I'm going to start reading the comic again.
Oh, fuck.
I have to, Jen. I have to read the comic to you.
I'm going to try to stay awake.
Peter? Shh. Everything's okay. Just rest. Anna. Is Aunt Anna okay? She's fine. Everyone's fine and will be from now on. What?
Except for those two fucking dogs.
What do you mean? Oh man, I don't even know where to start. It's a lot to explain right now, but Doc Strange, he fixed it, MJ. It's over. Fixed what? My secret identity. He made everyone forget. He made everyone forget that I was Spider-Man. But I remember. Because I love you, MJ. I needed you to be the only one. Now close your eyes. Need some rest. I'll explain it all later. They go to sleep. Peter wakes up. MJ's not in the bed with him.
No, they don't go to sleep. MJ freaks the fuck out. Because this is shit that she knew for decades. She found out before anybody fucking else and was cool with it. But now she's feeling not cool with it.
Peter goes to sleep. He wakes up.
Peter saved her aunt.
Peter goes to sleep. He wakes up. MJ's not there with him. MJ? MJ! Shh. Don't talk for a minute, okay? I'll be okay, but just don't talk for a second, please. First question, Sorry, I'm trying so hard to... First question, do you think... Did Dr. Strange really do what he said he did? Yes, he did. It's done. Don't. Let me... I have to get through this in my own way, okay? Okay? Don't touch me. It's not that I need to keep it together and I can't if you... Okay? I'm going to ask you something, Peter. I'm going to be selfish here and I'm going to ask you something and I don't want you to hate me for asking this. I could never... MJ. Shh. You know how much I love you. You've done as much as anyone could ever hope over these last few weeks to keep us safe, but this thing, the idea of it, I'm having trouble with. What if... Oh, Peter, you've always tried so hard to do the right thing. What if this time the right thing... Stop. Just stop. I know what you're trying to say. You're not saying anything that I haven't already thought about. This is big, and I know that there could be ramifications or fallout, but if this was a case of just me being alone in this world with no one to care for, no one who cared in return, that would be one thing. I would leave it alone and accept the consequences, but that's not how it is. May got hit with a bullet meant for me. A bullet that would never have been fired if not for the things I've done. But then when they went after Aunt Anna, and then you, I finally saw it. It was never going to stop. You were right, MJ. I'm responsible. Even if I try to tell myself that I'm not, in my heart,
I never fucking said that in goddamn Back in Black in the original Civil War and shit like that. She never once blamed Peter. Where's this coming from?
In my heart, I know I am.
In fact, she's the one who said you're not to blame.
But I was offered a chance to change it, and I took it. If I hadn't, I couldn't live with myself with that, MJ. I just couldn't live with myself. I'd break in two. Oh, well, that's just great. MJ, is that it? It's that simple. I'm not... You can't see it, can you? MJ, I thought this was what you would have wanted. I just thought you'd be happy. I did this for everyone we love. I did this for us. For us or for you, Peter? Whatever it is that you're trying to say, MJ, just say it. Oh, God. Why didn't you just let me forget, too? I just wanted to forget. So then they're holding each other closely. Hey, you. I know it's a lot, but it's going to be okay. Just give it time. Shh. Come on, MJ. It's Peter. Stop. I'm trying. I really am. But I remember all of it. Every detail. And no matter how I try, this is bad. This is really bad. MJ, what are you saying? Oh, God, Peter. Oh, God. I know I promised. I promised you I would never... Oh, God. What? What are you saying? Preep! This can't be happening. I don't understand.
Bad.
What more do I have to do? I fixed it. Yes, but for how long? Peter, look at me. You know what I'm talking about. How long? How long before you make a mistake? Before someone rips off your mask or figures out who you are? And then what? The cycle starts all over again. It's not like I didn't always know that being Spider-Man's girl was a risky thing, but after May and Anna, and after that maniac said he was going to go after my entire family, innocent people who had no idea you were Spider-Man, it wasn't until then, until that very moment, that I truly knew what Spider-Man's girl meant. It's not you putting them in danger.
You're not Spider-Man's girlfriend. You're Peter Parker's girlfriend. You never ever called yourself Spider-Man's girlfriend. You might have jokingly a few times with the other superheroes go, I'm Mrs. Spider-Man, but that's because you never wanted to say your name was Mary Jane. You never once thought of Peter as the mask and Spider-Man as the real man. You never thought that way. Only Carly Cooper ever thought it that way. Ah!
It's not you putting them in danger. It's me. I just didn't see it clearly. Sometimes you being Spider-Man is so surreal that it seems like a game. But it's not a game to me anymore. MJ.
I never thought it was a game!
MJ, don't. Peter, stop. Please. I have to think. That's the hospital. That's probably the hospital trying to reach you. You need to be by her side. I'll be fine. I love you, Mary Jane Watson. I love you, Peter Parker. And then they kiss. And then Peter shows, then it's Peter back at the hospital. His aunt's in a full recovery. Tom Brevoort walks in and says...
Again goes, ha, we screwed you fans over again!
Yeah, Tom Brevoort walks in and he's like, time for your meds. And Peter's like, hey, trusty sidekick, thanks for keeping an eye on her for me.
Tom Brevoort comes in and says, take your medicine because it's good for you?
And Mary Jane leaves. Then we cut back to present day, and I have to read the comic again. I'm sorry.
Oh my God, is this what he's referencing? Did they actually put this in the book? Him telling you to shut up and take your medicine?
I'm going to read the comic again.
We're back. Oh my God, he's legitimately, that's legitimately, like, to the point that he meant what he said. They put it in the book.
Don't read the comic. We get it.
No, I have to read the comic because I can't. I have to finish this.
Because we need to let the readers who haven't read this comic, they know how out of character this all sounds.
So, we're back in present day. We're in the apartment. They're finishing the discussion.
Guy's regretting rejoining the show right about now.
You know what?
I don't blame him. I regret being a Spider-Man fan right now.
So
I never regret being a Spider-Man fan.
All
This
right.
isn't his.
Oh, really? Because this has his name on it.
Yeah, it has his name on it. That's all it has of him.
All right. We're going to finish the comic. You know what? You're right. Talking through this helped a lot, MJ. Thanks. I wrote you a letter, you know. You what? Before I left, I wrote you a letter. Really? Yeah, I wrote it, then I threw it out. I realized it felt way too much like the end of some cliche chick flick. What did it say? It said, then she kisses him. It said, I love you.
You mean her note was just a picture of her, like, giving him, like, a kiss? Like, she drew a crude drawing of herself?
Let me finish reading the comic, James. It said, I love you. I love you, and I wish I was strong enough to be with you, Peter Parker, but I'm not. And I don't know if I ever will be. And you need to find that someone who is. And you need to move on. MJ, you know I'm right. You've been sitting here wondering, waiting for something that isn't going to happen. You need to get on with your life, Peter. There's someone wonderful out there for you. But if you don't let go of this, you may never find her. Even if she's standing right in front of you. I know
She's standing right in front of you!
I know, MJ. You're going to be okay, Peter. We're both going to be okay. Then, in Peter's narration, Today, my best friend, the best person I've ever known, set me free. Today, for the first time in a long time, I feel like my destiny is my own. Like I can take on anything life has to throw me. Today feels like a brand new day.
Because again, they have to keep on just throwing these at you. Like until the very last page, they have to make sure they're going like this at the fans. Because that's what a comic book writer should do. Not write something that fans will enjoy. No, you got to keep on doing this to them.
There's nothing I can say about this book that I haven't said in the past 3 issues.
Can I go? Because I really want to again pull in some pipe bombs in these pages.
Jan, are your thoughts going to be?
No, Jan's probably done too. So can I just finish off with like the grand finale to this? And I think you're going to really enjoy.
Jan,
like
just before
it's going to make this whole episode worth.
Jan, is that okay?
Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty much already blocking this from memory. Whatever. Go ahead, James.
Let's begin. Since Sean read the book, let me give you the James Markin audio commentary to what he read from the book. One already pointed out, why would they do this? The 3 guys. Doctor Strange. Reed. I can see Reed doing it. I can see Strange doing it, even though he said he couldn't fucking do it in one more day. Tony? I don't even have to go back to one more day. Because one goddamn issue, well, not 2 goddamn issues before, they fucking told you that he was not going to help, besides for giving me money, that's all he was going to do because Peter was a Fugitive Registration Act. But we're supposed to conveniently forget that now because it fits your plot convenience. And again, Peter and MJ aren't here, so how do they know this is what they fucking said? All they could have really said was, Peter Parker, fuck that guy. He's not registered. In fact, Strange, what are we doing in your place? Aren't you trying to pretend that it's a Starbucks to hide the Avengers?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The whole plot point with Bendis is that we're trying to find out where you guys are hiding, so you changed the Stranger Transformers to a Starbucks? And now I'm here. But I'm supposed to conveniently forget his mind wipe instead of just arresting you right now with all the Avengers. Notice all these plot holes I'm pointing out in just, page 3? Then we get the moment where they, like I said, they took the gun and they shot the character of Mary Jane Watson. And they replaced her with just what they want. What they want you to see as her now. Not the actual character you read since 1960 whatever. Because we get multiple pages of Peter saying how much he loves her. The real Peter Parker. Talking about how much he loves her and needs her, and she's his rock, and she's his soulmate. But no, she freaks out because Peter saved her and her aunt. I want to clarify that for you. Peter Parker saved the day, made it so that way you're not being media scrutinized for being a fugitive, for being the wife of Spider-Man no more. Even though you said it was okay for him to do that back in Civil War. I'm not even blaming MJ. That was actually pretty well competently MJ. and saying you would be there for him. For everything, the consequences. But now it's convenient that you don't like that. And he put that genie back in the bottle. He saved his aunt. He saved your aunt. And he saved you. But now you can't handle it. Venom coming into your fucking apartment. You could handle. Julius Caesar, or Jonathan Caesar, I mean, kidnapping you twice. You could handle it. Clones. You could handle it. Robot parents. You could handle it. Harry Osborn kidnapping you, his son, and Peter, trying to blow him up. You could handle it. Norman Osborn coming back from the dead and killing your baby, which never happened no more. You could handle it. Peter being a whining bitch about Gwen again and since past. You could handle it. All the original ramifications of this arc before these retcons. You could handle it. You blowing up in a plane. Okay, you had to take some time to get over that because you blew up in a fucking plane, supposedly. But you eventually did get over it, go back to your husband because you could handle it, because you love this man. He's your soulmate. But now she just wanted Peter to forget all of that. She wanted him to forget that she remembers Spider-Man, which means she wanted him to forget Mary Jane Watson from every goddamn comic book you ever bought. She was begging him to retcon her out of the book because we don't need her. Because remember, she found out, according to the retcons with Parallel Lives, in ASM 15. So she wanted every moment in her life from then to never happen. She would have probably never met him with Anna Watson because he was Spider-Man. That's the main reason why she didn't want to meet him, because I get to meet Spider-Man. And she thought he was cute. That never happened now. Now he's just the nerdy guy who lives next door who you never gave a time of day and would have never went to. You would have never been there for him when Gwen died. You never would have been there when Harry went off the rocker. You guys would have never dated in the 70s. You would have never been there for you when you both lost your virginity to each other because you finally gave in to the fact that you finally gave in to your insecurities both for you to be together back in the original 70s Clone Saga. That never happened. Everything I point out, now they're making Mary Jane say, nah, it didn't mean nothing to me. Retcon it, I don't care. That's not an in-character. That is you forcing a fictional character to have your words come out of your mouth just because you want to prove that you were right at this time 2 fucking years ago. Instead of just moving on, you had to dig in the middle finger by turning her into a woman who wanted her whole character since issue 1 to be retconned. Because she doesn't think she's that important to Spider-Man's book. Because after that, and her being complained that he didn't retcon everything, she did. Now let's go back to the main present timeline after they break up. Let me remind you that the original Walmart Day ended with Peter looking like a complete dick and an asshole. Because he's all like, oh, it figures that Harry gets the hot blonde. Why can't I get a hot girlfriend while Mary Jane's leaving? Now it's convenient because Mary Jane broke up with him that night, so it's okay for him one day later to be a dick. But that's what they want you to feel. And then you get this. The next middle finger where they show her saying, I wrote you a love letter, and then kisses him. Because you know why they did that? They wanted the fans for a split second to think they were getting back together. This was not needed other than to once again give the fans a middle finger. And then it said, I love you. Again, middle finger. Because then this is when the book completely turns to more propaganda. Not just that the marriage is wrong, but there's a certain girlfriend who they're going to start to promote after this issue, who just happens to have the name of Quesada as her character, Quesada's daughter, as her name. And now Mary Jane fucking Watson, who I want to remind you again, going back to the Jonathan Caesar, because I recently just bought the back issues of that arc, who fucking got out of that situation on her own and saved Spider-Man from Sticks and Stone, says she wasn't strong enough. The woman who stayed with him after Gwen fucking died, the woman who was there for him when Harry went off the rocker multiple times, including Harry dying, the one who was there for him during the Clone Saga, who was there for him for all the GMS issues, who were there for him for everything, who was this rock, is now saying she wasn't strong enough, that she's dumb. She's called Mary Jane Watson is calling herself dumb, stupid, and not needed. But you need somebody who's right in front of you who is all these things. And the very next arc, I'm going to start telling you how perfect Carly Cooper is for you. So his very best friend told him it's okay to bang Carly because that's who we're promoting now. Because this whole goddamn arc is propaganda. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off, Carly. Fuck off, Quesada and their corporate mandates. Fuck off, Slots Run. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off.
Okay.
Fuck off.
James.
Fuck off.
James.
Fuck off.
James.
Fuck off.
Is there an off button on this guy?
Yeah, there's a fuck off button.
I set myself up for that.
And here's the moment I said will make Jan happy. Jan in the goddamn, Skype chat before we all came on for this episode, he said, I wish this book was retconned. Or in my head canon, it's been retconned. Jan, these 4 issues that we just sat through, according to Spider-Man Deadpool, were not what really happened.
Well, I'm going to go.
I'm going to say it right now because I don't think we ever reviewed Spider-Man Deadpool.
Isn't it weird
fucking shoots Spider-Man and Spider-Man dies and goes to heaven because Spider-Man's a superhero. Deadpool's shocked by this because he's friends with Death. He's like, where did Peter Parker so go when he died? Because I heard he was an evil corporate douchebag. And she said he went to heaven because he's a good man. And he's like, but he was an evil corporate douchebag. No, he wasn't. Oh, shit, I got to bring him back to life now. So Deadpool kills himself so that way he can go to heaven and drag Spider-Man back to the land of the living. It's actually a pretty cool moment. That's the moment where Peter and him finally become friends. But before Deadpool can show up to drag Spider-Man back to the land of the living where he deserves because he was an innocent man and he shouldn't have been killed, Peter is sent to hell for a split second by Mephisto, who in a really cool moment says, every shitty thing that you have done, everything that happened in this comic, everything that happened with Spider Island, with Otto being in your body, every bad thing that happened to you losing your job at the Bugle, Jonah's wife dying, your aunt's husband dying, it's all because me, you, and somebody else made a deal. And now that you're dead, I can finally tell you, and he whispers in his ear, you're going to be alone and you're never going to find love because you had love. And you're never getting it back because the deal you made with me. And it was, and then Deadpool pulls him out right then and there. So Peter now knows that every shitty thing that is going on currently in the book is because he made a deal with the devil. He does wake up going, oh, it must have all been a dream, but then he sees Deadpool leave him a note saying, hey, are we cool because I dragged you out of heaven? So he now knows the events happened. So Marvel effectively, in my opinion, did the lesser of two evils of a retcon. Because me as a Spider-Man fan, this comic basically said that every Spider-Man comic since 1987 never happened, and MJ wanted every comic since 1962 to never happen. But Joe Kelly goes, no, every comic that you read happened. They were married.
You just don't remember it.
There's a little speckle of light to know that they were married. It wasn't all this goddamn propaganda we got in this piece of shit that said they weren't ever married and they should have never been. They were, and they were happily married. And now their love story is a tragic ending. Not just Quesada going like this the whole time at you. So at least Spider-Man Deadpool at least gave me some closure of saying those issues I got in my back issues of them being married, they happened the way you read them.
Isn't it
this
weird
comic
that
it's just a demonic spawn making you believe it didn't happen? And thank God for Deadpool for shooting Spider-Man so he could see Mephisto and learn the goddamn truth. Not all the truth, because he doesn't know that he sold his marriage to the devil. But at least we now know that every illogical thing happened is just Mephisto trying to fuck with Peter and MJ so they think that's what happened. Can we all agree that that's a better story? That every goddamn shitty thing we read and complained about is not what really happened. It's just what Mephisto's making them and the world think happened.
Yeah.
But it can actually make you actually get over and get closure on this comic. So, Jan, there's your happy ending from the story. There's your gift to me, you guys. Explain to you that according right now in your head, if you want to grow with it, this comic is just a demonic illusion by the devil. And we now know that that's all it is, and we can get clarity for what it is. And we can say, stay back, Satan. And yes, I punched the comic.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode. James, final shout-outs or words for the listeners before we sign off.
Oh, we're going to give our thumbs ups. Because here's my thumbs up. It's a fuck off. Fuck off. But my final shout-out is to... Just got to find something happy to say. My final shout-out is to you guys. Thank you for letting me get out 7 goddamn years of frustration.
Jen.
I'd like to give a shout out to literally
my voice
all
that's going to be
Spider-Man,
gone in the morning.
literally all Spider-Man comics that are good. Because I feel like, I don't know, Jake said it makes him ashamed to be a Spider-Man fan, and I think that's, I don't know, I don't think you should let a few crappy stories ruin something that, means a lot to you. So I don't know, just
Okay, I don't want to say it ruined Spider-Man. I mean, I'm still on this podcast. I still like the character.
You're on this podcast?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I mean, I like Spider-Man. I'll give all 3 of these issues. Next week when we review this, I'm going to give this a positive review. It's just, in my opinion, this book, up until goddamn Deadpool kind of retcon omit, inadvertently, because nobody, I'm sure if Marvel even paid too attention to a Spider-Man Deadpool satellite title, they would have told them, no, don't do that. That kind of at least made me go, I can at least go read back and read this. I get pissed off because I can see what it was at the time behind the scenes, but at least I know that's not what happened. None of that's what happened. What I read in Annual 21, that's what happened.
yeah.
Okay, my shout-outs, Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, thank you for Spider-Man. Other shout-outs?
Don't thank anybody from this creative team unless it's the people from the original Annual.
Shout-outs to the people who made the original Annual.
Yeah, I'm going to second that.
Jim Shooter, Dave Michelini, you guys, I'm sorry.
Other than that, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for sitting with us through this long episode, this long, dramatic, tense episode. Thank you all, and we'll see you all next week back for some current reviews. We'll catch up with our current reviews. ASM, Spec, Renew Your Vows, Ben Riley, all that stuff. We'll catch up on that. So see you all next week.
Jan, new episode of the Spider-Man show.
Yes.
Oh wait, you said it's gonna just be a rerun of the first episode, didn't you?
We'll see.
No.
You know what? I don't think you ever went over the origin stuff, so you can go over it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can find stuff to talk about, I guess.
So all that's coming at you next week. So until then, keep loving Spider-Man.